Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rundown, where we talk about 2A news and conservative views. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. And while normally I do not do this program by myself, today, unfortunately, Mike is, let's just put it this way. He is indisposed in the state of Florida, the right coast, the coast with the most, as he liked to say, the co-host with the most, except obviously, he's not here today. But anyway, we're going to have a good time because guess what, folks? It is a very special day today, and that would be Hump Day.
Mike. What day is it, Mike?
It's Hump Day.
Hump Day!
It's Hump Day.
Hump Day!
That's right, folks. Today is Hump Day. This is the day in which we attempt to begin the weekend. Sometimes with success, sometimes not. But hey, you know what? The fun is all in the trying. So join us on this fine Hump Day. And by the way, and encourage your friends to do the same. Remember, like, share, subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. Let your friends know that they can watch. Let them know where they can watch or they can listen to the Rundown. Anywhere they get their podcasts, anywhere you watch stuff online, you can find us. Great places, especially you want to make sure YouTube, Facebook, also OpsLens, as well as Spotify are great places to watch the program. And once again, anywhere you get your podcasts, you will find us. Now, also want to make sure to give a quick shout out to our sponsors. We'll start with Hitman Industries. That's hitmanindustries.net. You may already, if you've purchased an AR in recent times, then you probably already own one of their barrels. If you have not, then, why not? Well, you know what? Now, if you want to rebarrel your AR, your current AR, or you want to just build a new AR, they are the place to go. Go to hitmanindustries.net and get your parts today. Also want to encourage you to visit the California Republican Assembly. That's right. Ronald Reagan once referred to the California Republican Assembly as the conscience of the Republican Party. We're working to help elect conservatives from the top from the top president all the way down to dog catcher, but we can only do it with your help. Visit us at cragop.org. That's cragop.org. Become a part of California's future today. Also want to remind you, Hog Holsters. You can find them at hogholsters.com, helping Americans wear guns. Go there, check them out, and make sure to use the discount code, The Rundown, all caps, no spaces. Get your holster today. Finally, want to remind you, if you're looking for tactical gear, if you're looking for outerwear like coats or hats or gloves, if you're looking for optics like, glasses, or you're looking for sights, or you're looking for whatever accessories you're looking for, uscombatgear.com is the place to go. Go there, check them out. I promise you'll like what you see. Spend some money with them at uscombatgear.com. By the way, the links to all of our sponsors are listed in the description to this program. So you don't even really have to know the website. All you got to do is click on the link, go there. Once again, spend some money with them. Make sure you let them know that it was the guys over at the Rundown that sent you. All right, let's get into today's news stories, and we're going to start with the first one. Now, the last few days, in particular in California, have been a little crazy. There have been shootings that have been taking place, and normally I don't use the term mass shootings, but I'm using the term that's used by the Gun Violence Archive. I'm sorry, when I say mass shootings, I always do the air quotes, or when I say assault weapons, because these are terms that they make up. These are mass casualty events that involve firearms, or that involve firearms. Because as we all know, there are mass casualty events that don't include firearms. But we've had one incident that took place in Monterey Park here in the state of California, where an individual shot and killed 11 other individuals. We also had an incident that occurred in. We also had an incident that occurred in. Where was it? In Half Moon Bay, where another individual, a disgruntled worker, decided to go to work and shoot seven of his former coworkers, or 3 at one place and 4 at another place. And then there was a shooting that took place in Oakland, and we'll talk a little bit about that in our next story. Now, these are basically 3 incidents that took place in 3 days. And as a result of that, you now have a group called, Axios quotes folks Axios quotes folks in this on this particular website. So you have Axios is basically saying that there have been more mass shootings in the U.S. than days so far. So their argument is that there have been more mass shootings than days. And understand first and foremost that the folks that they are quoting are the folks over at the Gun Violence Archive. So these are the folks right here that they are in fact quoting. And according to them in 2023, so far in 2023, there have been, let's see, total number of gun violence deaths, total number of injuries, mass shootings. They are saying that there have been 40 mass shootings, 6 mass murders, but they're saying there have been 4 mass shootings in the United States since, there have been that many mass shootings while there have only been 25 days now in the month. Well, I guess obviously if we're talking about in a month, that's, there's only 30 days or 31 days in the longest month. So anyway, thar that be. In any case, where did I put this? Okay. In any case, what I wanted to show you folks here was, first of all, I think it's important for us to note, not just is it important to take a look at what they consider to be a mass shooting, that I believe is vitally important. But I also believe that we need to consider exactly what it is that they are. Let me take a step back. I think it's also important that we consider where these particular shootings are taking place. Because what you have here is you have places like California where they want to argue that, it's not really happening. California, the governor of California has argued that we have a dramatically small number of shootings like this that have taken place or that are taking place in the state of California. But if one just takes a second to look at it, let's take a look at this one right here. So if you look at it, I want you to take a look at where most of these quote-unquote mass shootings are taking place in the state of California. In fact, maybe I will, let me zoom it in a little bit even more for you, just so that you can get a perspective. Now, there you go. Let's scoot it in a little bit more. You notice overwhelmingly, these shootings are taking place in 3 different areas. One, obviously, right down there around Los Angeles. We know that Los Angeles, they have not only do they have attempted to have very much stricter gun laws than the state of California. By the way, California having the strictest gun laws in the entire country, but they've attempted in Los Angeles to have even stricter gun laws. At the same time, they allow criminals to walk the streets. People who've been arrested for multiple different crimes, they're allowing them to just get out of jail and walk the streets. And, we've seen the result of that. The other, if you notice there, is the other cluster that you see there is the San Francisco Bay Area. That includes Oakland, that includes San Francisco, that includes Berkeley. Once again, another area where there are where there appear to be mass shootings. Now, unlike the event that took place in Half Moon Bay, which appears to be a workplace violence issue, or the incident that took place in Monterey, I think it was Monterey Park, which actually seems to be a family or domestic violence issue where an individual was upset that they weren't invited to a dance. Yeah, that exactly. I know exactly what you're thinking already. But most of these incidences turn out to be gang or drug related. Now, that is something that they, in fact, will not tell you. But that's why you see those in those areas where, guess what? You see a lot of gang and drug activity. The San Francisco Bay Area, Los Angeles. And then you look, there's a couple of clusters there, kind of in the Central Valley area of California. That would be Stockton and Sacramento. The point that I'm making here, folks, is that one, let's just be real. Their definition of mass shooting is different than the FBI's definition of mass shooting. So there haven't been as many as they would lead you to believe. The other thing that they would have you to believe is that these things are happening all over in a bunch of different states. And the reality is while they may be happening in various different areas, they tend to be happening in areas that are run by anti-gun Democrats. I can't think of any other way to put it, but that is exactly where the tendency is. That's exactly what the data shows. You have Gavin Newsom, who wants to argue that, well, the state of California per capita, they have less gun violence. Well, that's because the people in the more rural areas or suburban areas or let's say Republican areas, conservative areas, well, they tend not to be running around shooting people up. That's why you see a lot less shootings in the state. That's why per capita the state of California has less shootings. But if we focused on our urban centers, I guarantee you'll find that it is well above the national average. And by the way, some of these urban centers have a greater population than some of our other states. So I think that's a significant thing. I think that's a significant thing to point out. Now, the next story kind of has to do with that because, once again, this is an event that took place in Oakland, California. In Oakland, California, there was an incident where one individual was killed and 7 others were injured. This is gunfire follows 2 other devastating shootings in California and Half Moon Bay. Now, the interesting thing about this is they still really haven't told us a lot about what is going on here. They're calling it, once again, an explosion of violence. What they are not doing is they are not pointing out exactly what is causing the violence. In other words, they're talking about guns, but they're not talking about, for example, one was workplace violence, which is really kind of a mental health issue. The other it appears to be, once again, a jealousy issue, which, once again, has more to do with the person than it in fact has to do with the gun. By the way, the guy in Half Moon Bay, he had already attempted to kill someone, and for some reason, that such though that the person had to get a restraining order against him. But they don't tell you anything about all that, or they did, but then you don't wonder. Well, okay, so he tried to smother someone with a pillow and was only saved by another roommate. One would wonder why this guy was out walking the street, but I digress. I'll just leave it at that. Anyway, so in the Oakland shooting, they don't really give you a lot of details, right? What they do, because what they probably are not going to tell you isn't, and once again, I have no information. I am not giving you anything that I know to be the case. What I do know is this. What I am guessing is this, is that this has something to do with gangs or drugs. Do you know why I feel comfortable that I can do that? Because the overwhelming majority of shootings have to do with gangs or drugs. The overwhelming majority of mass shootings are related to gangs or drugs. But for some reason, the guns are the issue, not the gangs or the drugs. For some reason, instead, what we ought to be doing, they're saying, is we ought to be paying gang members not to shoot each other. What they're saying is that what we ought to be doing is legalizing drugs. Kind of like we did with marijuana. And we've seen what levels of success we've had in reducing crime and violence surrounding marijuana here in the state of California, right? We've seen all the tax dollars that have been brought in to the state of California from this industry. I'm sorry, you're saying I sound a bit sarcastic? Well, I sound sarcastic because I am. Because we have seen actually an uptick in violence surrounding illegal grows, surrounding cartels bringing marijuana in from other countries, because, all it really did was make it so that it was legal to smoke it and possess it. It didn't really do anything on the supply side because they so overtaxed it and so overregulated it that, it's a lot cheaper and a lot easier for people to just buy from the people that they've already been buying it from. Which, by the way, are illegal sources. But in any case, that is not what they are going to tell you. That's not what Gavin Newsom is going to tell you as he starts talking about how despicable people are who believe in the right to keep and bear arms. Keep in mind, Gavin Newsom is an individual who seeks to make victims out of these people. He's the one who would make it so that they weren't allowed to have or possess a firearm in order to defend themselves from these individuals who are seeking to do harm to them. And then following it, he further victimizes them by doing a macabre sort of political dance over their bodies. And I have no other way to describe it than that's exactly what Gavin Newsom is doing. It is despicable. He is despicable and completely and utterly ignorant on the subject of the Second Amendment, of firearms, firearm safety, of personal self-defense, and how to keep people safe. All he is doing is making more and more victims out of the people he claims to want to represent. But that's just, one man's opinion. All right, moving on to our next story. Adam Schiff for Brains and Eric Swalwell have both been removed, or at least, let's put it this way. Democrats have proposed that Swalwell and Schiff both be reappointed to the Intelligence Committee. And Kevin McCarthy, Speaker Kevin McCarthy, has said, no way, they are not qualified. First of all, you have Eric Swalwell, who is known to have been sleeping with a Chinese asset. We know that he has had connections with a Chinese asset, and still, I mean, as Kevin McCarthy said, he could not get a clearance in private industry. If he can't get a security clearance in private industry, why would we allow him to get a security clearance to basically have information to the nation's most important information and secrets? Why would we do that? That would be the very definition of stupidity, right? That would be, highly, highly stupid. And then you've got Adam Schiff. Now, Adam Shifty Schiff, this is, once again, keep in mind, this is a guy who decided that, he reported from the very beginning. He was saying, well, we have irrefutable evidence that the president of the United States, not the current president, but the past president, President Trump, has been colluding with the Russians. Irrefutable evidence. He basically lied. He lied because once all of the information came out, whether it's the Mueller, Robert Mueller investigation, we had all the information that we were going to get. And guess what? Even he said there were no ties to or no evidence of collusion with the Russians. He cost this nation millions of dollars in investigative resources. He cost the president of the United States a lot of political capital in his ability to be able to be able to govern. And it's amazing that Donald Trump got all that he got done in spite of the undermining that individuals like Adam Schiff did. There was absolutely no way that this guy should be on a committee. Now, mind you, these are the same folks, the people who are arguing about this, who didn't let two Republicans sit on any committees. Representative, I think it's Gosher, and Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene were not allowed to sit on any committees. And yet and still somehow Democrats believe that, these folks should be allowed to sit on, once again, the most sensitive of committees. And then the sad part is you've even got some Republicans who are backing that up. I'm sorry, but no. No, I think there's very good reason to not put them back on that committee. I don't know that I would put them on no committees, but I would definitely pick some committees that have less sensitive and less important information on them. That's where I think those individuals ought to find their new home in the legislature. And then finally, our last story today has to do with the teaching of Black history. Now, you might recall that Governor Ron DeSantis has rejected an advanced placement course focusing on what they say is Black history. Now, and as a result, there's been a lot of backlash. And this was a piece that was written by a group. It's basically from a group called Word in Black. It's a group of it's a commentary. It's a group of African-American publishers or Black newspaper publishers. This particular piece specifically was written by Azia Seed, and it doesn't exactly say which paper was originally published in. But the interesting thing about this particular article is that it does absolutely nothing, and it speaks nothing to the quality of what is in this particular advanced placement course. Now, I don't know anybody and I'm not saying there aren't people, but I don't know any policymakers who are against the idea of teaching black history, of teaching about slavery, teaching about the slave trade, about teaching about the Jim Crow era, about teaching about Reconstruction and the history of how peoples of African descent were brought to this country, how they've been treated in this country, and from the time they were brought, we were brought here, to the time to the modern day. What we take issue with, and I think what Ron DeSantis has been very clear in pointing out, is he's not for political indoctrination, which is what is a big part of what is in this thing. Not just political indoctrination, but other indoctrination. For example, in this curriculum, they talk about black queer theory. First of all, why are we teaching? They not only teach critical race theory, which basically teaches that all white people are racist and all black people are victims, and our current system is set up and designed to victimize black people, and the only way in which we can move forward is by tearing it down. But it also advocates for queer theory, which I'm wondering what queer theory has to do with black history. It has nothing to do with black history, and I think there are many people who, if they understood that this was in this advanced placement course, would take issue with it. It also advocates for the elimination of our current criminal justice system. It advocates for the elimination of our current economic system. It speaks to motivations that are not founded in any fact or history as to certain things that occurred within history. In fact, it speaks contrary to what we know to be the facts. Look, if you're going to have something, if you're going to teach a curriculum, if you're going to have a curriculum, all right, especially advanced placement, meaning we're going to give you college credit for it, there's a few things it has to have. Number one, it needs to be accurate. All right. How about that? How about we make sure that it is accurate? And this curriculum is not accurate. How about we do this? How about we also make sure that it is focused on what it's supposed to be on? I'm sorry, but talking about capitalism, or let me clarify, lying about capitalism, bringing in queer theory, none of this has anything to do with black history. It's all an attempt by the liberal academic intelligentsia to try and co-opt young people. Number three, it has to have some basis in fact, or it has to have experienced at least some level of academic historical rigor. And none of this, just so you know, social justice theory has absolutely no basis in fact or academic rigor. Period. Right? There's no data that supports the things that they claim. When put up for peer review, all they say is, well, the system, the logic and critical thinking is white supremacy. We can't look at history. We can only look at experiential history, meaning, your experience is all that really matters. Well, here's the problem. My experience isn't the same as theirs. My experience doesn't fall in line with their critical race theory, right? So my experience in their eyes doesn't matter. They say that I have internalized racism. I say bull, right? None of this has any basis. And then the final thing is, if we're talking about academia, we're talking about academics, in particular, if we're talking about it at the K-12 level, it ought not include political advocacy. And that is what is included in this. It is sheer socialist, Marxist political advocacy. That is what is in this particular curriculum. But nowhere and anywhere in any of these articles that are criticizing it, none of these headlines, they don't refer to any of the details of the content. They say, "Oh, well, you don't want to teach about black people." Nah, I'm sorry, y'all. You have no credibility, and I stand up and I salute Governor Ron DeSantis for standing up to these folks and telling them, "No, we're not having it." I very much appreciate them standing up to it because, I most of the people that I know are all for teaching about histories of all significant populations within this country, helping us to understand, because black history is American history. I'm just going to tell you that right now. Black history is American history because it is so interwoven in the United States, that you cannot talk about history in total without including the history of peoples of African descent here in these United States. I'm sorry, you can't. But having said that, promoting lies, promoting indoctrination and political agendas, no, that's not what our academic system is supposed to be doing. And so we say no. Governor DeSantis says no, and I take my hat off to him. All right, on that note, we're going to move ahead to our parting shots, brought to you by Hog Holsters. That's hogholsters.com, helping Americans wear guns. Go there, get your holster today. Remember to use the discount code, The Rundown, all caps, no spaces. Get your holster today. Our first one is, kind of in line with what has been going on with all of the document gates. The Democratic Party decided that they were going to go after President Donald Trump because, hey, you know what? He has some classified documents at his home. They decided to raid his home at Mar-a-Lago. And now all of a sudden we are finding out that, President Biden's not only got him at one place, evidently they found 5 different stashes of classified documents on his properties. Anyway, and by the way, that's just so far. And so the smoking gun that they thought that they had over the president does not appear to be smoking so much. It appears to have blown up in their hand. And for those of you who are just listening to the program, this is a donkey or a jackass, however you wish to, they're kind of both the same, with a little D on his chest, basically a Democrat, pointing what appeared to be what used to be a gun, which has blown up in their face. That's a picture of Donald Trump, and it says, the smoking gun. Now, that kind of leads me to our next thing, if we're talking about firearms. I'll just show you this one. So Alec Baldwin was recently, has recently been charged with, manslaughter, involuntary manslaughter, because of the incident that occurred on the set of The Rust, where an individual lost their life because of a firearm accident. And this is Steve Crowder sitting there. He likes to sit on cool college campuses. And the sign in front of him says, Alec Baldwin needs to make a movie with the cast of The View. Change my mind. No, I am not threatening violence against the cast. No, I am not. No, I am not. I'm sorry. It is a joke. So just for those of y'all who don't know, now you know. But the reality is that these are folks who, how do I want to put it? They're just not nice people. And they're people who tell a significant amount provide a lot of misinformation, and it would be nice to see them not provide that information. So I apologize once I tried this in advance. I doubt anyone in this audience who regularly watches this will be offended, but I'm sure someone who tunes in, who is seeking to try and find a reason to cancel us, I'm sure that this is one that will not amuse them. Now, in the last parting shot, you may not have heard, but Nancy Pelosi wanted to have a priest come and perform an exorcism on their home after the hammer attack against her husband. Well, the priest came and performed that exorcism, and now Nancy Pelosi's daughter is reporting that Nancy called priests to perform an exorcism at the home after the hammer attack, and Nancy hasn't been seen in public since. Did the exorcism work? Who knows? Okay, folks, these parting shots are jokes. They are comedy. They are meant to, if they offend, they offend. And I don't really mind if they offend because it's called humor, and humor will sometimes offend. On that note, folks, that is the end of today's episode. We very much appreciate you tuning in. Please make sure to visit our sponsors. You got Hitman Industries. That's hitmanindustries.net. We've got the California Republican Assembly. Join California's future today. Hog Holsters, helping Americans wear guns at hogholsters.com. And uscombatgear.com. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the program, and encourage your friends to do the same. We will be back tomorrow on Thirsty Thursday. Hopefully Mikey will return and be with us tomorrow. But if not, folks, I got you back. I'm always going to be here for you. We'll see you tomorrow.